So what if you could actually get your hands on a blueprint for success? A formula distilled from the minds of the world's most successful people? Well, back in 1937, a guy named Napoleon Hill claimed he had done exactly that with his book Think and Grow Rich. He spent decades, literally, studying the titans of industry to figure out what they all had in common, and we're about to break that formula down.
Now, this wasn't just some theory Hill cooked up. He had the data. He personally interviewed over 500 of the wealthiest self-made people of his day. We're talking about the heavy hitters: Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison. His whole mission was to find that one common thread, the core principles that anyone could use to achieve that same level of massive success.
So, what was the big secret? Was it luck? A fancy education? Did they all just inherit a bunch of money? Hill found out it was none of those things. The real secret wasn't hiding in their bank accounts. It was all in their minds. And in this explainer, we're going to dig into exactly what that means.
All right, so the very first step on this journey is completely internal. What Hill's research showed, again and again, was that before you can build a fortune out there in the real world, you have to build it in your head first. This whole first part is about defining exactly where you're going and programming your own mindset for success.
Let's start with a story. The story of a guy named Edwin Barnes. Now, this young man had nothing. I mean, zero money, no powerful friends, absolutely nothing going for him on the surface. But he had one thing that was way more powerful than all of that combined: a single, all-consuming, burning desire. And here's the crucial part. Barnes didn't just want a job or to maybe make some money. His goal was crystal clear, it was specific, and honestly, it was audacious. He was absolutely determined to become the business partner of the greatest inventor alive, Thomas Edison. So he hopped a freight train, showed up at Edison's office looking like a total mess, and took a super low-paying job just to be in the building. For 5 long years, he just worked and waited. But that desire never faded. And when Edison's new invention, a dictating machine, was getting laughed at by his own salesman, Barnes saw his chance. He sold that thing like crazy and earned his partnership, making millions. So that brings the question right back to you. Not what do you kind of want or what would be nice to have. No, what is your definite #1 goal? Because being vague is a guaranteed recipe for failure. You've got to have a target to aim at. Now, Hill doesn't just leave you hanging with go find a desire. He gives you a really practical 6-step formula to turn that wish into a solid plan. You decide the exact amount of money you want. You decide exactly what you'll give in return for it. You set a firm deadline. Then you make a plan, write it all down, and this is key, read it out loud twice a day, every day. And reading that goal out loud, it's not just some cheesy motivational trick. It's a technique Hill called autosuggestion. It's basically the process of programming your own subconscious mind. You are deliberately, repeatedly telling your brain what to believe until it finally accepts your goal as something that is absolutely going to happen. Hill had a great metaphor for this. He said your subconscious mind is like a fertile garden. If you don't intentionally plant the seeds of what you want, your goals, your desires, through this autosuggestion, then the weeds of fear and doubt and negativity will just grow automatically. You have to be an active gardener of your own mind. Okay, so you've defined your destination and you're programming your mindset. Awesome. Now you actually need to build the vehicle that's going to get you there. This next set of principles is all about turning those ideas in your head into a real-world strategy. Hill makes a really powerful distinction here. General knowledge, the kind of stuff you learn in school or that helps you in a trivia night, that's not what makes you rich. Wealth comes from specialized knowledge, knowing very specific, actionable information that solves a real problem, and then knowing exactly how to use it. This quote from Henry Ford just nails it. He said this during a lawsuit where some lawyers were trying to prove he was uneducated. He basically said, why would I need to have all the answers in my own head? I just need to know how to surround myself with people who do. See, his genius wasn't in memorizing facts. It was in applying knowledge. So where do all these plans and brilliant strategies even come from? They come from your imagination, what Hill called the workshop of the mind. Think about it. Every single man-made thing you can see right now, from the device you're watching this on to the building you're in, it all began as just an idea in someone's imagination. But imagination and desire, they aren't enough without a real plan. Just take the story of Dr. Frank Gonzalez.
He had this dream of building a new college, and he needed $1 million to do it. For 2 whole years, he had the desire, he had the faith, but all he did was wish for it. And then, everything changed. He decided he needed that money in 1 week. That sense of urgency forced him to actually make a plan. He announced he was giving a sermon with a killer title, he prepared it with incredible passion, and he delivered it with such conviction that a man in the audience was moved to write him a check for the entire $1 million. A plan turned a 2-year wish into a 1-week reality. So you've got the mindset and you've got the plan. But let's be real, the road ahead is going to be long and it's filled with obstacles. This third step is all about developing that inner grit, those personal qualities you need to see the journey all the way through to the end. This slide shows a really stark contrast that Hill observed. Successful people, they're decisive. They make choices quickly, and they change them very, very slowly, if at all. Henry Ford famously refused to change the Model T for years, and that decision made him a fortune. Unsuccessful people, they do the opposite. They take forever to decide, and then they change their minds at the first sign of trouble. But maybe the most powerful quality of all is just plain persistence, and it's summed up perfectly by this famous story. A guy named Darby and his uncle literally struck gold. They were ecstatic. They went out, raised a bunch of money, bought heavy machinery, and went back to drill. But then the vein of gold just disappeared. They drilled and found nothing. And finally, they just gave up. They sold all their equipment for practically nothing to a local junk man. Well, that junk man was curious, so he hired a mining engineer who told him the gold was just 3 feet from where Darby had stopped digging. A simple fault line had shifted the vein. The junk man dug those 3 feet and made millions. The cost of quitting, for Darby, was a fortune. And you know, that determination doesn't always have to come just from you. Hill was huge on what he called the mastermind principle. It's the synergy you get when you surround yourself with smart, driven people. When minds work together in sync, they create this third invisible force that just elevates everyone. It's how guys like Ford amplified their own power and resolve. Once you've really mastered these principles of desire, planning, and persistence, Hill says something else starts to kick in. This final step is about learning to tap into a deeper level of guidance. Think of it like your own internal GPS. Hill called this the sixth sense. It's that gut feeling, right? That sudden flash of inspiration or a hunch that just comes out of nowhere. He argued that this isn't random at all. It's a highly developed faculty that gives you access to a higher intelligence, and it provides incredible insights and warnings once you learn how to listen to it.
So really, the core of this whole explainer, it all boils down to this. The blueprint is right here. The principles absolutely work, but they all depend on one thing, your persistence. You are going to hit challenges. You will have moments of doubt where it feels like that gold vein has totally vanished. You might be just 3 feet away. The only real question is, will you keep digging?